You really get exactly what you need. He won't give you more or less. So I gained confidence. As I ate more and more, you must not hoard. Wealth cannot be rushed. Like water, it should flow freely like living water. If you let it stagnate, it becomes dead water, and dead water turns into a stinking ditch. That would be a mistake. So if you have talent, you should let it be used wherever necessary.
So, do you know that economists now say we need to store a large amount of foreign exchange reserves?
In the end, the US dollar becomes worthless. It's all gone. Why don't you use that money to help those suffering? That would be Bush's blessing. And then your wealth would last forever.
In fact, the ancient Chinese have long taught us this. It's about storing more to avoid future troubles, right?
But the economist said, well, at the meeting, today this economist is just like the Long Hu Wang. One day the US dollar will turn into waste paper, worth nothing. Why is that? What does the US dollar rely on to exist globally today? It relies on everyone's belief and confidence. Does it have any actual substance? Desperately printing money, desperately printing it so everyone believes in it and has that confidence. This confidence can lead to a crisis, rendering it worthless. He has nothing behind him. When I lived in the United States, it had already entered the 4th generation. What's going on here? We Chinese people save and live frugally to leave something for our descendants. If he spends everything on his descendants, isn't that lacking in virtue? In Chinese, we say it's lacking in virtue, so he can't stay that day. I lived there for a few years and I advised the Chinese people to hurry back to China, and I helped them too. Yes, that's right, my help is not as effective. Then he asked me, why did you come here? I said, I am different from you all. I said, I came here because I want to return to my hometown. Why did I come to the United States to return to my hometown? It's because I married someone from there. Why is that? Do the Chinese want to learn from foreigners? When I returned from abroad, they believed me. If I hadn't gone abroad, they wouldn't have trusted me. It's convenient. Right, so I came back to build a bridge. The destination, oh, that's right. I'm not here in the United States to settle down. I didn't mean that. You have been in the United States for 10 years, for over 10 years. I have a connection with the community in the United States, and I have to visit every city in the United States and Canada where I have lived, at least once a year, over a dozen cities.
In fact, gaining wealth and building a strong network is also a principle for truth.
Decisions cannot be made like that. If you have the law and punishment, but do not apply them, then it becomes even more lacking. If you truly have something good, like being a doctor with secret remedies, and you don't pass it on to others, you will have a short life.
What about this in the context of the 5 relationships and 8 virtues in China? For example, a sage, such as a parent, must love their children. This is normal. Human relationships are good. However, if parents spend all the money of their children and grandchildren, thereby damaging human relationships, it is immoral.
In China, such phenomena are impossible. So foreign countries lack this ethical and moral education. Foreigners used to be quite good, believing in God. Now, with the advancement of science and technology, humans have landed on the moon and have completely explored outer space. Everyone no longer believes in God. People have become like God. He is not. God is already dead. Yes, there is no God anymore. So during my time living in the United States, many churches were putting up signs for sale. Why is that? There are no congregants left. Everyone has stopped going.
He just sold this industry related to the education of goodness. People around the world no longer believe. Confidence is gone. Yes, they don't have faith in money. That's correct.
So this economic crisis has made him reflect that money isn't everything.
Money during great disasters is not real.
What is true virtue? It is the kind of virtue that ensures that no matter what disaster you face or where you go, there will always be people who care for you and look after you. You don't have to worry at all about whether you're in charge. There are people looking after you everywhere, even if you have no money. There are people making offerings. I don't want to read. I only accept what Buddhism gives us. Everything is an offering. Clothing and food, the place of residence, is where one receives guests. Money is not needed. So any money offered to me, like this red envelope, I will definitely pass on and change to them the permanent residence. A gift for their place of worship.
In ancient China, during times of great disaster, high monks and virtuous individuals would take action. Initiating a Dharma assembly, for example, is quite good during the War of Resistance. What about Master Yin Guang's Assembly for Protecting the Nation? These great virtuous individuals all share a common point, which is the hope that the public will refrain from eating meat. Yes, what you are talking about this time is also this point.
Why? Because eating meat involves killing. At this moment, this is not willingly giving you food. To put it another way, you kill him to eat his flesh. He has resentment. This resentment is at your disaster. Why? Confucianism, Taoism, Buddhism teach, if you take 500 G from someone, you should repay 8 taels. The Buddhist scriptures say that life is sustained by death, and death is for the sake of life. Now, this principle is believed by foreigners who claim to understand it through hypnosis. Humans have past lives and future lives. People can transform into births. Asterisk, asterisk, they can also transform into humans. This endless cycle of mutual slaughter and revenge across lifetimes will never cease if we understand this principle. Why do we keep losing weight? A vegetarian diet is healthier than a meat-based one, and I have been vegetarian for 57 years. I have been learning Buddhism for about half a year since I was 26, and I understand this principle. What is this retribution? My father. My father lived very hard during the War of Resistance, but our family had wild vegetables to eat every day. Hunting. Going out hunting, getting up very early in the morning with a gun to go hunting. When we were young, we followed our father to hunt. So I practiced my shooting really well since I was young, shooting every day. When my father died, it was exactly like what is said in the Kitagarbhastra. At that time, I didn't study Buddhism. He was crazy. Very ill. The madman has a lot of strength and dives into the water as soon as he sees it. When he sees a mountain, he runs up it, and a few people cannot control him. The Kitagarbhastra says it is absolutely correct. So, whenever I think about this matter and see the way my father died, I completely believe in not taking life from that point on. I switched to a vegetarian diet, and I must say, I use this little bit of money, mostly for releasing animals. Whenever someone advocates for animal release, I will definitely participate. Why? Repentance. So during my time, I believed I would have a short life, having endured 3 years of hardship alongside my father. But you will be 83 years old during the new year. That's quite a life. Changed. Yes, it has changed. Yes, it seems like I was there when it changed. Around the age of 50, I met a student of Master Zhongjiang, Ganja Rinpoche, who is from Qinghai. He is over 10 years older than me. He looks to be nearly 20 years old. One day, when we ran into each other, he told me that he is an offensive mage. We often talked about you behind your back. or discussed what kind of person you are, saying you are very clever. Unfortunately, there are no blessings and a short life. I have no problem discussing this face to face. I am completely open. I admit, I won't hold it against you. He said that over the years. This bonus has greatly contributed to your merit in spreading the teachings, and your life has transformed. Not only do you have great blessings, but you also have a long life. In the second year, Ganja Rinpoche died.
This kindness has such great power.
You have transformed. Master Zhongjian once told me, not for oneself, but for all beings. You live in this world for two purposes, to help suffering beings and to assist in the righteous teachings. He told me that as long as you determine this direction, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas will take care of you throughout your life. I feel very happy knowing that Buddha and the Bodhisattvas are taking care of me, so I have no worries and don't think about anything else because they are looking after me.
It seems that you have never been ill in your life, right? It's so enviable that you haven't been sick.
There is a principle here. When your mind is calm and clear and you are free from greed, anger and ignorance, you are also free from the three paths of suffering. Even when there are bacteria outside, you are less likely to get infected. Moreover, compassion is capable of dissolving poison. Therefore, do not rely on medication. Let compassion be the antidote. You really are hardworking, so this is a good thing. There's too much of it, ancestor. You don't want it? Just trust me. Those unreliable ones, you're mistaken. So there is a saying in China that is quite thought-provoking. If you don't listen to the advice of the elderly, you will suffer the consequences immediately.
In the past, we indeed heard that prophecy where the Brazilian prophet mentioned that there would be a major tsunami on September 13th, which did not happen. It is quite a coincidence that it was on that very day. The United States has experienced an economic tsunami and financial tsunami, and we have all seen this big headline in the newspaper. It is called "The Tsunami Kills," and someone raised the question, is this a coincidence?
In Buddha's teachings, even in the words of the American prophet Casey, when we lived in the United States. There is a Casey in the United States. Many people know this person. He passed away during World War II, so he is not too far removed from us. This prophet had an influence on the whole world during his time. If we observe closely, it is not its own ability, it is a medium being possessed. This medium who helps him is very kind and has a connection with him. He knows a lot of things, but when someone asks about gambling or lottery numbers, he doesn't say anything. So he doesn't help artificial creations, but he helps people heal and solve problems. Well, he has said this before. This matter. In anyone's life experiences, there is not a single event that lacks a cause. It is impossible for something to happen purely by chance. This saying is completely identical to the teachings of these Eastern sage couples. This is what our Chinese proverb means by saying that life is determined by one's karma and not entirely by oneself. Therefore, the experiences of a lifetime are a result of one's own karma. However, this karma can be changed. That is the most obvious and well-known. Yuan Huang Yuan. Mr. Fan, you see, when he met Master Yan Jiyu, Master Yan Jiyu taught him a set of methods to transform his fate. He truly changed through dedication and service. Income has increased. There is a noticeable increase, but without any qualifications. Without any qualifications, that is, without this, what is being discussed now is degrees. His fate indicates that he is destined to be a scholar, but not to achieve the title of a successful candidate or a top scholar.
This is the degree that is being talked about now. There are no orders. There are no sums in the fate. Moreover, the lifespan is only 53 years. This official position is just that of a small county magistrate in a very small county in Sichuan. After accepting the teachings of Master Yan Jiyu, he became truly serious. He reflected on his daily shortcomings, noting them down one by one, striving to improve every day and build self-confidence. He engaged in giving and accumulating merit. He sought to learn. The citizen has been successful. He passed the examinations and became a jurin and then a jinshi. Without a son, he wished for a son and ended up having a good one. Now, this is about continuing the family line, and his family is quite prosperous. His descendants are in contact with me. Yes, they live in Zhejiang. The graves near Hangzhou are still there. Well, this. I have a son, and as for my position, I have achieved a level of respectability. This position is elevated. The treasure is directly under the emperor, which is equivalent to what we now refer to as a directly governed municipality. Yes, this mayor has received a mandate. He was originally 53 years old, but he lived to 74 years before passing away. He extended his life by 21 years. This is all due to his cultivation. So he has written down his life experiences in 4 articles for his son as a reference, stating that fate can be transformed and blessings can be sought by oneself. So in the Buddhist teachings, seeking help will surely be answered. This Master Zhongjia told me that sometimes your requests may not be answered. What could be the reason? It is because you have karmic obstacles. Obstacles are present. If you eliminate your karmic hindrances, your sensitivity will advance. How can karmic obstacles be eliminated? The teacher told me how to repent and then not to create further negative actions. That is called true repentance. You know you have done wrong and no longer repeat that action. True repentance is what Confucianism refers to as not repeating mistakes. Yang Hui is the standard. The father and son greatly admire Yang Hui, who is the epitome of not repeating mistakes.
So, regarding the financial crisis question we just asked you, indeed, a major disaster occurred on September 13th in the United States, sweeping across the world like a massive tsunami. Yes, some people have asked, did this disaster really happen on September 13th? Is it just a coincidence?
Coincidence. As Casey would say, there are no coincidences, and from the perspective of Buddhist teachings, there are also no coincidences. No. When karma reaches this point, it will erupt. This outbreak has only just begun, not ended.
For example, it's like striking a match. Once the temperature reaches a certain point, it will ignite. Yes, it will ignite. This is a scientific principle. That's right, as you just mentioned. When the end is reached, it will inevitably explode. And this is also science. Exactly. It's because of the accumulation to a certain extent. That leads to a qualitative change.
Therefore, the way to resolve it is to start from the human heart. Without understanding human sentiment, there is no way to truly resolve problems. Why is that? It closely follows the mind's transformation. This is a phenomenon that is manifested by your unwholesome state of mind. You can let go of unwholesome beliefs and earnestly strive to cultivate goodness.
When can the problem be resolved? 32 years ago? July 28, 1976. At 3:43, a magnitude 7.8 earthquake occurred in Danshan. Overnight, 240,000 lives were lost, and I was also among those affected by that disaster. Survivors were pulled out from the ruins. So what about now? So many years have passed, and this year I have seen the Wenchuan earthquake in Sichuan again. So here, I really want to pay tribute to our compatriots who have suffered in the past and present. I would like to ask you a question about why such great disasters happen to us.
This is about the collective karma discussed in Buddhism. This collective karma, it is a negative collective karma. It is very frightening. But why can't we avoid it? We have all reaped the benefits of our traditional good ethics. For so many years, no one has advocated for it. It can be said that after the fall of the Qing dynasty, disasters began to strike China. First, there were the warlords seizing power. Then the Japanese invaded China. That 8 years affected us in China. Traditional society has become completely chaotic. So, the good customs of the past and the teaching of ethics have gradually diminished. It has been submerged to the point that no one thinks about it or brings it up anymore. This is a truly frightening factor. Without these things, well, so I often talked about many things in the past, not just once, about how to maintain China's long-term stability for 5,000 years. This is something that foreign researchers studying Chinese history do not admire. Why has China achieved such great success? After the regime was established, there has been a stable society for at least 100 to 150 years, which cannot be found in foreign countries. But what is the reason for this common occurrence in China? It is nothing other than the widespread education of ethics and moral causality. You can't call it superstition. If you do, then those emperors are superstitious. Very clever, using superstition to achieve peace in the world. Quite brilliant. What does he rely on? 3 things, one of which is the ancestral hall. The ancestral hall represents ethics. One is the Confucius Temple, which teaches morality, benevolence, righteousness, and ethics. The other is the City God Temple, which speaks of cause and effect. These 3 elements are essential. The full name of the popularization. So the common people are very obedient. But why? Because they understand the education of ethics and morals. They won't stray. They are unwilling to do anything that would bring shame. Sorry, ancestors. I'm sorry to my elders. I'm sorry to my parents. I'm sorry to my teachers. It's too pitiful for these. I dare not do bad things. The second point is learning from British education. Teachers' good deeds are rewarded, discouraging bad actions. Why there's long-term stability and peace. So now China has discarded this education and no longer values it. People's hearts have lost their direction. When learning from foreigners, they only look to history and competition while disregarding China altogether. Foreign countries are like a mirror for us. We see how they thrive and how they decline. Should we follow their path? When I found myself in a crisis abroad, I came to the East and sought Chinese items, and I also searched for Indian things. This is something we should deeply reflect on. So, what Arnold Toynbee said is indeed correct. During my visit to the UK, I went to the University of London and the University of Cambridge. I also gave them 2 lessons, and I mentioned that this is something that Dr. Arnold Toynbee said. It's not something I said. Solutions are needed. The 21st century is a problem. We need Confucian teachings from China. What about Mahayana Buddhism?
So, when we say all these disasters, well, their cause is actually the corruption of the heart. Yes, the human heart has become corrupt, and the reason for this is the lack of education. No education. There has been no traditional education on the principles of cause and effect. Indeed, the disasters caused by the absence of sage education. Yes, but now scientists believe that earthquakes are caused by movements in the Earth's crust. Together, what is their view? The scientists' opinion is that these disasters are, firstly, unpredictable, and secondly, unavoidable.
When science reaches its peak, it benefits the world. Scientists also know that 50,000 years ago, there was a land called Atlantis across the Atlantic Ocean. At that time, scientific development may have been even more advanced than it is now. Because the energy they use comes from space. It is not polluted. So when their planes and cars move, there is no sound. There is no noise. So it has progressed compared to now. Because people do not believe in ethics, nor in God, the whole thing has fallen to the bottom of Chengdu. So in this general prediction about the outside world, we see a map in the United States. The future world is also very much like the present. The most essential part is all at the bottom of the sea. Then such things happen without any forewarning. Suddenly sinking just like this, it turned into this situation. It happened all of a sudden, so it's very terrifying. What are the omens? Everything happening now is an omen. If you don't step in, then there's nothing you can do. Just look at this. Iceberg now. This. The snow on the mountain. It's melting so quickly. The snow on the mountain is gone. The Yangtze and Yellow rivers, these major rivers, have run dry. The water source is gone. Just think about how many people these rivers support. What will happen if there is no water? After the ice in the North and South Poles melts, scientists estimate that sea levels will rise by at least 6 meters. The distant coastal metropolis has all been submerged. This is it. The scientist does not shy away and honestly states everything. So how long is this time? When I was in the United States, they estimated it would be the year 2100. I am leaving the United States. When I arrive in Singapore, this scientist mentioned something about it being early. 2050 years. That sounds quite calm. So in these past few years, I've heard that Brazilian seer mention something about the year 2043, which is about 30 years from now. It's getting closer, and some people have suggested it could be within 10 years. I also heard someone say it might be about 7 years. From now on, yes, I heard this information when I was living in Australia. I will take a trip to New Zealand. Mount Cook is the southernmost point of Aleutian land. That's an ice flow up there. I'm getting close to Antarctica, and I'm going to go see it. If you personally come to see me, we can take a helicopter to the top of the mountain. On this glacier, I got off the plane and touched the ground. I was taken aback. Why is that? My hands are all wet. This shouldn't be happening because over 20 years ago, I went to play with ice and fire in Canada from the United States. That ice flowed from the Arctic. The blood clump we have in our hands is icy cold. When it spills on the ground, there is no water on our hands. This is a normal phenomenon. Why hasn't he been caught yet? When I touched him, my hands were all wet. I said this is serious. They've been talking about it for 10 years. I told the people I was with, those who were playing with me, that my view has been the same for over 7 years.
It will all melt away, and then those water disasters will occur. Yes, that's right. That is completely contrary to what the scientists say, isn't it?
So I went to see that phenomenon.
It's really frightening now, and the problem is still the same. Scientists can't find answers. They can only issue warnings. Political leaders from various countries are also trying to find solutions, and the United Nations is warning as well.
I often mention in my teachings that I hope everyone can avoid getting angry. When you get angry, it raises the temperature a little, and you are creating an increase in temperature. Now, let me give you an example. Some people just can't accept this. They feel indignant. Right now, I am in Hong Kong, and when I get angry, it's not just about me. It relates to the soldiers in Antarctica and affects the whole world. The Buddhist scriptures clearly explain that the moment we have a thought, the speed of that thought is unmatched. Light cannot be compared, and electromagnetic waves cannot be compared either. Light waves and electromagnetic waves, in 111 seconds, travel 300,000 kilometers. The universe is vast,